Hello everyone, welcome to Coding with Ivan, and in today's video we're going to make a codes application with Kotlin like this. So if I open that, as you can see, we got a list of codes, and inside each of the codes you got the code description and the author of that code, and also we got a copy button. By clicking on it we can easily copy the code. So let's make that application. I made that same app with Java, so if you prefer Java then you can watch that video, and if you want to do this with Kotlin then you can continue with this video. Alright, so let's get started. So at first let me show you the API that we're going to use. So we're going to use this API. This is the URL of that API. I'll give that in the description. So from there you can visit that, and as you can see we got a list of these JSON objects, and each of the JSON objects contains a text and an author. So the text is mainly the code and the author is mainly the author name of that particular code. Alright, so let's integrate this in our Android Studio. So in order to integrate the API we're going to use retrofit. So to integrate the retrofit we need to go to the GitHub repository of retrofit and copy the dependency of that. So I'll give the link of the retrofit dependency also in the description. From there you can visit that, and we just need to copy this dependency from here. So currently the version is 2.9.0, so I'm copying this com.square of retrofit 2. So I'm copying this and I'll go back to my Android Studio, and here we need to go to the Gradle scripts, and from here we'll click on this module level Gradle file. Okay, so inside here we'll paste our dependency. So let me go here, let me zoom in a little bit. So here at first I'll write implementation, and then inside a quotation I'll paste the dependency that we copied. So this is the dependency for retrofit, and then we need another dependency for the JSON converter of retrofit. So for this we'll go again to the GitHub repository. I'll also give the link of this in the description. So from here we'll just copy this dependency for the JSON converter of retrofit. We'll copy the whole text and we'll get back to Android Studio, and after this we'll paste our dependency, and here instead of this latest version we'll just pass 2.9.0 or whatever the current version of retrofit is. So we'll copy this and paste it here. Okay, and then we can click on sync now. Alright, and once the Gradle sync is complete we'll add another plugin to our Gradle file. So for this we'll go up here, and inside the plugins we'll add another plugin which is named as let's define the ID, and for the ID name we'll pass Kotlin Android extensions. Alright, and so I'm basically adding this because if you add that then you don't need to initialize your views with the find view by ID. We can directly access them from the main activity or the main class by just calling the ID itself. Okay, so I'm adding this, and again I'll click on sync now and wait for this to complete. Okay, so once it's done we can just close our Gradle file, and then we can start working for our API consumption. So to work with the API we will create a separate class. So here I'm going to right click on the package name and create a new Kotlin class here because we are using Kotlin. So I'll call the class as request manager. Okay, and this is a class. So here we got the class request manager. So here at first we need a context from the constructor of the request manager class. So here I'm going to add a primary constructor for the request manager. So I'm just adding a first bracket here, and inside this I'll add a context object. So let me call this as mContext. Okay, and this will be an object of the class context. Alright, now let's go to the class body here, and here we'll initialize our retrofit. So let's create an object of retrofit. So I'm going to assign this with var, and I'll call this as, let's say, retrofit, and it's equal to retrofit.builder, and after this I'll add base URL here, and here for the base URL we are going to use the base URL of the API. So I'll just copy until this one. Okay, so I'm just copying this part of the URL, and I'll go back to Android Studio, and here I'll paste that. Okay, and then I'll add the converter factory. So for this I'll write dot add converter factory, and here I'll add a new JSON converter factory. So for this I'll write JSON converter factory dot create. Okay, and after that we can build our retrofit object. Okay, now we have to create an interface to manage our API call. So for the interface I'll create a new private interface, and I'll call this as let's say call quotes. Okay, and inside the interface's body we're going to create a method. So the method is called function, let's name this method as call quotes. Okay, and it doesn't have any parameter, and the return type of this call quotes method will be a list of response. So let's cast this type to a call for list of response. So let's create a model class for the response first. So for this I'm going to right click on the package name again and create a new Kotlin class. I'll call this as let's say quotes response. Okay, so here we got the class quotes response, and inside here we'll create objects for these responses, the text and the author here. Okay, so let's create them. And as you can see inside the API response we have these titles. The first one is text and second one is author. So we have to use the same spelling or the same title for our object name in our model class. So make sure you do that, otherwise you will end up with errors. Or if you want to use a separate name, then you must have to use serialized names. Okay, so I'm going to use the same name as it is. So let's go back to Android Studio. Let me copy this text from here and go back to Android Studio, and here I'll create a string object. So I'll call this as var, and the name of that object will be the text that I just copied from the API response, and this is a string type object, and let's initialize it with an empty string. Okay, similarly for the second one I'll call this as the name given in the API response, author. I'm copying this and I'll just paste it here. This is also a string object, and initialize it with an empty string. Alright, so that's our quote response class. Now let's go to the request manager class again, and here we are making this call for a list of quotes response. Alright, but we're not done yet. We have to add a method type annotation for our this call quotes method. So the calling method is get. Okay, and the endpoint of this get method is let me go to the API here. So as you can see, previously for the base URL we have used only this part of the URL, so we have to use the rest of it as our endpoint. So I'm just copying this part of the URL, and I'll go back to Android Studio and paste it here. So that's our interface for the call quotes. Now we have to create a public method to access the call quotes from our main activity. So for this I'm going to create a separate function here. So I'll write function get all quotes, and here inside the parameter of this function we are going to pass a listener to pass the response to our main activity. So let me create the listener interface first. So I'm going to right click on the package name again and create a new Java class, sorry, not Java class, Kotlin class or file, and here I'll call this as quotes response listener. Okay, and that will be an interface. So I'll click on this one. Okay, so here we got our interface quotes response listener. So inside here we're going to define a method. Actually we're going to define two methods. One is for the success and other one is for the failure. So the first one I'll write as function did fetch. Okay, and here the first parameter will be the list of quotes response. So I'll call this as response, and this is a list of quotes response. Okay, and the second parameter of this is a string, which is the message of the API response. So we'll call this as message and it's a string. Okay, so that's our on did fetch method. So similarly we'll create another method for the did error. So I'll write did error, and this time the parameter is only the error message. So I'll write a message, and this is also a string. Okay, so that's our quotes response listener. Now let's go back to the request manager class again, and here we'll pass the listener object that we created right here. So I'll call this as listener, and this will be the quotes response listener, all right. And now let's work into the method body. So here at first we need to create a call object with our this interface, the call quotes interface. So let's do that. I'll name this as call and equals retrofit dot create, and inside the parameter of the create we will pass the call quotes interface. So I'll write call quotes, class.java. all right, and then we can access the call quotes method from this interface after here. So I'll write here call quotes. Okay, and then we'll go to a new line, and here we'll enqueue our call. So for this I'll write call.enqueue, and here we're going to create a new callback object. So I'll call this as object, and this is a callback object. So I'll write callback for a list of quote response. So let's list of quotes response, this one. Okay, and then we'll go just before this closing bracket, and here we'll create or add a new second bracket. Okay, like this, and hit enter. So here we got the objects callback objects body. So here as you can see the object is showing an error. So if you hover over that, then it will show this pop-up, and we can click on this implement members. So let's click on this and select these two and hit OK here. So here we got the on response and on failure method right here. So at first we will work on the on response method. So let's remove this to do here, and here at first we'll check for if the response is not successful. So I'll write not response dot is successful. In that case we'll call our listener dot did error, and here we'll just pass the response message. So here I'll write response dot message. Okay, and then we'll return from here. all right, so if the response is successful, in that case we'll call our listener dot did fetch, and here the first parameter will be the response body. So I'll write response dot body, and the second parameter is the message, which will also come from this response. So I'll write response dot message. all right, like this, and now it's showing an error here. So if I hover over that, so it says we have to wrap this with a null checker. So let's click on this wrap with blah blah. So here we got that, error is now gone. Okay, so now we can work on the on failure method. So here I'll just remove this to do from here, and I'll call listener dot did error, and we'll pass the error message from this throwable t right here. So I'll write t dot message. Okay, so it's also showing an error. Maybe this is the same case. We need to wrap this with the let call. So I'll click on here. Here we got that. Okay, so our request manager class is now ready. Now we can start working on our UI. So let me go to the activity main.xml file first, and I'll go to this split view here, and at first let me zoom in here. All right, so here at first I'll just okay, so here at first I'll just delete this constraint layout, and I'll use a linear layout right here, and I'll set its orientation to be vertical. Okay, and then I'll just remove this text view from here, and I'll add a new recycler view, and I'll set its width to match parent and height to match parent also. Let's close this recycler view, and I'll give this recycler view an ID. I'll call this as recycler underscore home, and let's give this a small margin of, let's say, 4 dp. Okay, so now we'll also create a custom layout for our recycler view items. So for this I'll go into this res folder, and into this layout I'll right click on the layout folder, and I'll create a new layout resource file. I'll name this as, let's say, list underscore quotes, and I'll hit on OK. So here we got our list underscore quotes.xml file. I'll go to split view, and inside here I'll replace this constraint layout to a card view, and I'll set its height to, let's say, wrap content here, and then I'll set the card background color as color white here, and then I'll add a card elevation of 8 dp. Also I'll add a card corner radius of 8 dp, and then I'll add a overall margin, the layout margin of 8 dp. All right, and then let's go into this card view, and here I'm going to create a new linear layout. I'll set its width to match parent and height to, let's say, wrap content here, and I'll close this tag, and inside this linear layout tag, okay, but before that we need to define the orientation of this linear layout. So I'll define it here as the orientation vertical, and then inside this linear layout at first we'll create a text view to show the quote. So I'll write a new text view. I'll set its width to match parent and height to wrap content here. I'll close the text view tag. Let's give this an ID. I'll call this as text view underscore quote. Then let's add a dummy text here. So let's say I'll write this is a test, and after that I'll set the text alignment to be center here, and then let's also change the text size to be 22 sp here. Okay, and I'll also change the text color for this to color black. Let's also set the text style to be bold here for the quotes. Okay, and after that I'll give this a padding of 8 dp. Alright, and now similarly we'll create another text view to show the author name. So for this I am going to just copy this text view, and I'll paste it under this, and I'll just change the title, change the ID for this. So I'll write text view underscore author. Okay, and for the text let's write author name, and the text alignment is center. Let's change the text size. Let's pass this as let's pass 15 sp here. Okay, the color is black, and the text style is italic this time. Okay, so that's it. Now under this text view we will create another button to copy the text. So for this I'm going to create a new button here. I'll set its width to match parent, height to wrap content here, close this tag, and I'll give this button an ID. I'll call this as button underscore copy, and then I'll set a text to this button. I'll write copy here, and let's give this button an overall margin. I'll pass 16 dp here. Okay, so that's it for our custom layout for recycler view items. Now we can close this and we can work on our main activity. All right, but before that we have to create an adapter class for our recycler view. So let's also create that. So I'll just right click on this package name and create a new Kotlin class. I'll call this as let's say quotes list adapter. Okay, and hit enter. So here we got our Kotlin class quotes list adapter. So here at first we will define a separate class for the view holder. So for this I'll go after this class or outside of this class, and we'll create a new class called let's say quotes view holder. Okay, and then I'll make this quotes view holder class extends the default view holder class of recycler view. So here I'll make this class extends the recycler view dot view holder class, and it's showing an error here. That's because if we click on this red bulb here, it says change to constructor invocation or add constructor parameters from view holder view. So we're going to click on this add constructor parameters from view holder view. All right, so our error is now gone. So now we can start working inside our view holder class. So inside here we'll define our view objects. So as you can see inside our list quotes XML file, we have 3 views, 2 text views for the quote and author, and 1 button. So I'll just copy the IDs of the text view quote first. So I'll copy the text view quote and go back to this quotes list adapter inside this quotes view holder class, and here I'll create a new variable and I'll paste the text views ID here, and this is an object of the class text view, and I'll write equals, and then we'll write item view. This item view we are getting from this parameter. So I'll write item view dot find view by ID, and here I'll write r dot id dot the ID of the text view quote. Okay, and similarly we'll do for the text view author and the button copy. So I'll just copy this 2 more times here, and then I'll copy the text view author from here and I'll paste it here, and for the ID also. And similarly for the button copy, I'll copy this ID, paste it here and paste it here, and we also need to change this class name from text view to button. Okay, so our view holder class is now ready. Now we can start working on our adapter class. So here at first we need to create a constructor where we will pass the context and the list that we want to show. So I'm going to create a primary constructor here. So after this class name I'll add a first bracket, and inside here we'll pass our context and the list of the quotes response. So here I'll name this as context. Let's call this context, and this is a object of context. Okay, and the second one is the list of quotes response. So this is also a val, and I'll call this as list, and this is a list of quotes response. All right, so that is our primary constructor. Now we can start working on our class body here. Okay, sorry. we already have the body. Okay, so now inside the class body, okay, but before that we need to make this course list adapter class extends the default adapter class of recycler view. So let's do this inside a new line here. So here I'll write extends recycler view dot adapter, and then inside the angle brackets we need to pass the class name of the view holder. So here we got the course view holder class, so I'll just copy this and paste it here inside the angle bracket, and after this angle bracket we need to pass a empty first bracket because there is no parameter in our adapter class. So now the course list adapter is showing an error. That's because we need to implement the members. So let's click on implement members here, and we'll select all these three methods. So I'll select all of these three and click on OK. So here we got our on create view holder, on bind view holder, and get item count method. So let's start with the on create view holder. So here at first we'll create a new layout. So I'll call this as val, let's say this as layout equals layout inflator dot from, and we'll pass the context here, then dot inflate r dot layout dot list underscore codes that we created. Then the second parameter is the parent that we got from here, and the third parameter is false. Okay, so after this we need to return our layout file from here, layout object from here. So here I'll write return, and this will be a codes view holder, and we'll pass this layout as the parameter of this codes view holder. So I'll write layout here. Okay, so that's it for our on create view holder. Now for the on bind view holder, let's remove this to do from here, and here I'll write holder dot text view code dot text, and here for the text we'll pass the text from the list. So I'll write list dot get from position dot text. All right, and then similarly for the text view author, I'll write holder dot text view author dot text equals list dot get from position dot author. All right, and then lastly for the get item count, let's remove this to do, and here we'll return list dot size. Okay, so that's it for our codes list adapter. Now we can start working on our main activity, and let me zoom in here a bit. Okay, so here at first I'll go inside this on create method right after this set content view, and here I'll initialize our request manager classes object. So I'll write request manager, and we'll initialize it with the context. So for the context we have to pass this at the rate main activity, sorry, with capital M, main activity. Okay, and then we need to call the get all codes method from this request manager class, and here for the parameter of this get all codes we have to pass a listener of this codes response listener, as you can see. So let's create the object for codes response listener. So I'll go outside of this on create method, and here I'll create a new private variable called listener, and this will be an object of codes response listener. Okay, and this is, I'll call the object of quote response listener. Okay, and then let's create the body of that, and as you can see it's showing an error inside the object. So if I click on that and I'll click on this red bulb here, I'll click on implement members. Okay, and we'll select both of them and click on OK. So here we got our methods for this course response listener. So now let's pass this listener object to our get all codes. So I'll copy this listener and paste it here. Okay, so our request has been executed here in the main activity. So after calling this method get all codes, we can also show a progress dialog. So for this, at first I'll define a new progress dialog up here inside this main activity class. I'll call this as var dialog, and this is an object of progress dialog. Okay, and we'll initialize it with null. All right, so it's showing an error, progress dialog null. Okay, so we have to add a null checker here. All right, so this is our progress dialog. I have initialized it. Now we need to add this after this request manager calling. So I'll write dialog equals progress dialog, and here in the parameter we have to pass the context. So for the context, again I'll pass this @ main activity. Okay, and then we need to set the title of this dialog. So I'll write dialog dot set title, and here for the title I'll pass loading dot dot dot. Okay, so here it's showing an error because we need to add a null checker. So I'll add that, and after that we need to show the dialog. So I'll write dialog dot show. Okay, so that will show our dialog here after we call this get all codes method, and the response will come to this listener. Here we got the listener, and now we need to show the response inside our recycler view. So for this we have to initialize our recycler view. So here at first inside this did fetch method, let's remove this to do, and once we got our data into this did fetch, we can dismiss our dialog. So I'll write dialog dot dismiss. Okay, add a null checker here. Okay, and after that we need to populate our recycler view. So as I have told you earlier that inside our Gradle file we added this Kotlin Android extension as our plugin. So now we don't need to initialize our recycler view or any other view with find view by ID. We can directly access them with the ID. So here I'll go into this main activity XML file, and I'll copy this recycler view ID called recycler underscore home. I'll copy that and go back to our main activity here, and here I'll just paste that directly, and as you can see it says we need to import the class. So we'll just hit Alt Enter, or we can also click on this import button right here. So I'll just click on Alt Enter. Okay, so here we got our recycler underscore home, and I'll add some attributes like set has fixed size to true, and then we need to also add a layout manager for this recycler view. So I'll write recycler home dot set layout manager. For Kotlin we'll use the layout manager directly. So layout manager equals, we'll use this staggered grid layout manager, and here for the parameter of this staggered grid layout manager, at first we'll pass the span count, and then we'll pass the orientation. So let's do that. For the span count I'll pass 2, and then for the orientation I'll pass linear layout manager dot vertical. Okay, so that's it. So here we have to create an adapter for our recycler view. So let's create one. I'll call this as val adapter equals let's say codes list adapter, and here for the constructor of this codes list adapter we have to pass a context and then the list of codes response. So for the context I'll pass this @ main activity. Okay, and then for the list we got the list here as the response. So I'll write response here. Okay, and then we can finally attach this adapter to our recycler underscore home. So I'll write recycler underscore home dot adapter equals adapter. Okay, so now our adapter is added. And then for this did error, let's remove this to do, and also we can dismiss our dialog. So dialog dot dismiss here, and then we can just show a toast message. And to show a toast message, we will write toast dot make text, and here at first we have to pass the context. So I'll write this @main activity as the context, and then for the second parameter we have to pass the text. So for the text we'll just pass the message that we got from the parameter. So I'll pass message, and third parameter is the length of this toast. So for this I'll write toast dot length long. Okay, and finally we need to show our toast. So for this I'll write dot show here at the end. Okay, so our toast is also added here and our coding is done. But before executing our app, we have to add the internet permission into our manifest file. So let's quickly do that. So I'll open the manifest file, android manifest.xml, and inside here, just right here, we'll define our permission. So here I'll write users permission android.permission.internet, and I'll close this tag. So this is the definition of internet permission here. Make sure you add that to your android manifest file, otherwise you will end up with errors. So after you added that, we can now run our application to see if it works. So let's run our application. Let me open Visor. So our app is now installing. Let's wait for that. As you can see, our app is now installed, and here we got all the response of the codes. That's nice to see that our app is working fine. So here we got the code, and here we got the author of that code. Okay, and now we just need to work on this copy button. As you can see, currently it's not working, so let's also fix that. So for this we have to go to our codes list adapter at first, and here we'll pass a new listener to our constructor. So here is our constructor. This one is the context, this one is the list of codes response, and then we also need to pass a listener. So let's create a custom listener here. So at first I'll right click on the package name again and create a new Kotlin class. I'll call this as let's say copy listener. Okay, and that will be an interface. So I'll click on interface. So as you can see, here we got our interface copy listener, and here we'll create a new method. So I'll call this as function on copy clicked. Okay, and here inside the parameter we'll just pass a string because we'll only copy the code itself. So I'll pass a string. Okay, so this will be the text, and that is a string. Okay, so that's it for our copy listener. Now we can close this, and we'll go to the code list adapter, and inside here we'll add another object. I'll call this as val listener, and this will be the copy listener. Okay, so we got the copy listener here, and now we have to go to inside our on bind view holder, and here we'll write holder dot button copy dot set on click listener, this one. Okay, and here inside this on click listener we'll just call our listener dot on copy click, and here we'll pass the text. Okay, so for this I'll write list dot get, and I'll write here holder dot adapter position dot I'll go outside of this and write dot text here. Okay, so that's how we can get the text from the list and we'll pass this to our listener. Now we need to implement this listener into our main activity, so let's also do that. So I'll go to our main activity here, and here as you can see we're getting already an error into our course list adapter, because now that we have changed our constructor, now we have to pass a listener for the copy listener. So let's create the listeners instance first here. So I'll go right here after this listener that we created for the course response. So I'll go after this and I'll create a similar listener. I'll call this as private val, and this will be the copy listener, and this is the object of copy listener equals object of copy listener, and I'll create the body, and the object is showing an error. If I click on that, we'll click on the red bulb and click on implement members, and this is the only method that we got inside this listener, so we'll click on OK. So here we got this on copy click method. Alright, now before working inside, we'll just pass the copy listener. So I'll copy this class name and I'll paste it right after this response into our course list adapters constructor. So I'll just pass it here. Okay, so our error is now gone. Now let's work here to copy our text to the clipboard. So here at first I'll remove this to do from here, and I'll create a new object for the clipboard. So I'll write val, let's say clipboard equals get system service, and here I'll call the service for the clipboard. So this is called as clipboard service, and I'll cast this as clipboard manager. All right, and after that I'll create another object for the clip. So I'll write val clip equals to clip data dot new plain text, this one, and here for the label let's pass copied data, and for the data here we'll just pass the text that we got from the methods parameter. So I'll just write here text. All right, and then we'll attach this clip data to our clipboard. So I'll write clipboard dot set primary clip, and we'll pass this clip that we got from here. So I'll pass clip. All right, so our clip is now copied to our clipboard, and then we can just show a toast message. So I'll write toast dot make text. For the context I'll pass this @ main activity, and for the text I'll pass quote copied to clipboard. Okay, and then the third parameter is the length or the duration of the toast message. So I'll write toast dot length long, and then we'll just show our toast. So I'll write dot show. Alright, so our copy to clipboard method is also added. Now let's run our application again to see the changes. So I'll run it. Let's open the phone. It's installing, and as you can see our app has been installed, and here we got all the codes that we got from the API. Okay, so let's try to test this copy button. So I'm going to try and copy this first quote from here. So I'll just click on this copy button, and it says quote copied to clipboard. So now let's check if the quote has been copied or not. So I'll minimize this and open this app note keeper. So I already have a tutorial on how to make this note keeper app. You can also check that. So now let's try to paste it here inside the notes. I'll just paste it, and as you can see our code has been pasted here. Okay, so that's how we can make a codes application in Kotlin with retrofit. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you enjoyed this and if you want me to make more projects on Kotlin, you can comment down below. I'll make them. And thank you so much for watching.